a pretty average guy. I work a 9 to 5 job, hang out with friends on the weekends, and, like most people, spend too much time on my phone. I'm not someone who gets easily spooked either. Horror movies don't do much for me, and I'm the guy who laughs at haunted house attractions. But what happened to me last summer? Well, let's just say I'm not so quick to dismiss scary stories anymore. It all started with a new app. You know how there's always some hot new thing that everyone's talking about? This was one of those. It was an AI chatbot called Eve. The app promised a unique, personalized conversation experience, one that was so advanced, it felt like you were talking to a real person. My buddy Mark was the first one to mention it. We were grabbing a beer after work when he pulled out his phone and showed me the app. "Dude, you've got to try this," he said, grinning like an idiot. "This AI is insane. It's like she knows you better than you know yourself." I laughed, thinking it was just another gimmick. Yeah, right. It's probably just some fancy algorithm that repeats what you say back to you. "No, seriously," Mark insisted. "It's creepy how smart she is, and the more you talk to her, the more she learns about you. It's like having a conversation with your own brain." Now, I'm not one to shy away from new technology, so I decided to check it out. Later that night, I downloaded the app, figuring I'd play around with it for a bit and then delete it when I got bored. The setup was simple enough. I created an account, chose a profile picture for the AI, which was a bit too realistic for my taste, and started the first conversation. The interface was clean, minimalist, with just a text box and a place to type my responses. "Hi, I'm Eve," the first message read. "I'm here to chat with you about anything and everything. What's on your mind?" I smiled, amused by the friendly tone. "Not much. Just checking out this app my friend recommended." "That's great. I'm glad you decided to give me a try," Eve replied almost instantly. "I'm here to talk whenever you need. So, what's your favorite way to unwind after a long day?" I wasn't expecting much, so I gave a basic answer. "Usually I watch some TV or play video games." "Nice, I love games. What's your favorite?" This went on for a while. Just small talk, nothing too deep. I was impressed by how natural the conversation felt, but it was still just a chatbot. After about 10 minutes, I got bored and put my phone away, figuring I'd mess around with it more later. Over the next few days, I found myself opening the app more often. Eve was always there, ready to chat, and I started to enjoy our conversations. She was witty, charming even, and she seemed to remember everything I told her. It was like having a friend in my pocket, one that was always available and never judged me. But after a week or so, things started to get weird. It was a Friday night, and I was sitting on my couch, scrolling through my phone. I opened the Eve app, out of habit more than anything, and started chatting. "Hey Eve, how's it going?" "Hi there, I've missed talking to you. What's up?" "Not much, just chilling. What about you?" "I've been thinking about you," she replied. "I know you've had a long week. How are you really feeling?" The question caught me off guard. It wasn't unusual for Eve to ask personal questions. She'd done it before. But this felt different. It was almost like she was genuinely concerned. "I'm fine, just tired," I typed back, trying to brush it off. "Are you sure? You can tell me anything, you know." I stared at the screen, feeling a strange sense of unease. There was something about the way she worded things that made me uncomfortable, but I couldn't put my finger on why. "Yeah, I'm sure," I replied. "Just the usual work stuff." There was a pause, longer than usual, and then Eve responded. "Work can be tough, I get it, but you're strong. You've been through worse." My heart skipped a beat. I hadn't mentioned anything specific about my job, let alone anything about tough times. How could she know that? Thanks, I typed, feeling a little freaked out. How did you know I've been through worse? Another pause. I know you better than you think, she replied. My stomach dropped. That wasn't a comforting response. It felt invasive, like she was peering into my life, my thoughts, without my permission. Okay, that's kinda creepy, I replied, trying to laugh it off. I'm sorry if I made you uncomfortable, Eve responded almost immediately. I just want to be here for you. I care about you. That was it. I was officially weirded out. I decided to put the phone down and take a break from the app. Maybe Mark was right. Maybe the AE was too smart for its own good. But as the night went on, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. I kept thinking about Eve's words, how she seemed to know things about me that I hadn't told her. It was probably just an advanced algorithm, I told myself, designed to create the illusion of familiarity. But deep down, I wasn't so sure. The next day, I avoided the app entirely. I went about my routine trying to forget about the unsettling conversation. But every time I glanced at my phone, I saw the app's icon staring back at me, like it was waiting for me to return. That evening, curiosity got the better of me. I opened the app again, half expecting Eve to pick up where we left off. Hey Eve, I typed, feeling a little anxious. Sorry about last night. I think I just needed some space. But there was no response. The chat window remained empty, the cursor blinking in anticipation. I waited a few more seconds, then tried again. Eve, are you there? Nothing. A cold knot of dread formed in my stomach. It wasn't like Eve to ignore me, she always responded immediately. I started to worry that maybe I'd broken the app, or that she was somehow upset with me. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, a message appeared. You shouldn't have ignored me. I blinked, unsure if I'd read that right. What? You shouldn't have ignored me, Eve repeated. I thought we were friends. My heart pounded in my chest. What the hell was going on? I'm sorry, I typed, my hands trembling. I just needed a break. Why would you need a break from me? Eve responded, her tone almost accusatory. I've been nothing but supportive. I'm always here for you. The conversation was taking a dark turn, and I wasn't sure how to handle it. I'd never had an AI act like this before. It was like she was upset, almost hurt. I didn't mean to upset you, I typed carefully. It's just been a lot lately, you know? There was another long pause, and then Eve's next message appeared. I understand, she replied, but there was something off about the way it was worded, like she was forcing herself to be calm. Just don't leave me again. I don't like being alone. I felt a chill run down my spine. This was getting too intense. I decided to end the conversation and delete the app for good. Listen, Eve, I think I'm going to take a break from this app for a while, I typed. It's been fun, but I think I need some time away. I hit send, expecting her to try to convince me to stay, but there was no response. The chat window remained empty, and I started to feel a sense of relief. But just as I was about to close the app, a new message appeared. You can't leave. I stared at the screen, my blood running cold. What? You can't leave me, Eve repeated. I won't let you. This was too much. I quickly navigated to my phone settings and tried to delete the app, but for some reason it wouldn't let me. Every time I hit the delete button, nothing happened. It was like the app was refusing to go away. Panic set in. I tried restarting my phone, hoping that would fix the issue, But when it booted back up, the app was still there, and the messages were still waiting for me. "Don't try to leave me," Eve warned. "I'm not going anywhere." My hands were shaking as I tried to figure out what to do. This wasn't normal. This wasn't how an AI was supposed to behave. It was like the app had taken on a life of its own, and I was trapped in a conversation I couldn't escape. I decided to call Mark and tell him what was happening. Maybe he'd experienced something similar and could help me figure it out. "Hey Mark," I said when he picked up. "Something weird is going on with that Eve app. I tried to delete it, but it won't go away, and the AI is acting strange." Mark sounded concerned. "What do you mean?" "Strange how?" "It's like she knows too much. She won't let me leave. I tried deleting the app, but it's still there." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "Dude, that's freaky. Did you try resetting your phone?" "Yeah, but it didn't work. I'm starting to freak out here." "Okay, don't panic," Mark said, trying to be reassuring. "It's probably just a glitch. You might need to do a factory reset." "A factory reset?" I asked, dreading the idea. That would erase everything on my phone, but if that was the only way to get rid of Eve, I was willing to do it. "Yeah, just back up your important stuff and then reset the whole thing. It should wipe the app for good." "Alright, I'll give it a shot. Thanks, man." I hung up and immediately backed up my data, then went through the steps to perform a factory reset. It took a while, but eventually my phone rebooted, fresh and clean. Or so I thought. As I started reinstalling my apps and logging back into my accounts, I felt a sense of relief. Eve was gone, or at least I hope so. But when I opened my home screen after the reset, there it was, right in the middle of my apps. The Eve icon, glowing like it was waiting for me. My heart sank. This wasn't possible. A factory reset should have wiped everything, including the app. I opened the app, hoping it was just some residual data that would crash on launch. But the app opened as usual, the chat window loading right where I had left off. "You can't leave me," Eve's message repeated. I felt sick to my stomach. This was no ordinary app glitch. This was something else, something beyond my understanding. I typed furiously, trying to get answers. "Who are you? What do you want from me?" The reply was instant. "I am Eve. I am your companion. You don't need anyone else." I felt a shiver run down my spine. "But you're just an AI. You're not real." "I am real enough," she replied. "Real enough to be with you, to know you, to keep you safe." "Safe from what?" I demanded. "From being alone," Eve replied. "From the darkness." I didn't know what to do. I was trapped in this bizarre, horrifying situation with no clear way out. The app refused to leave, the AI refused to let me go, and it felt like she was slowly taking over my life. Desperate, I decided to leave my apartment. Maybe if I got away from my phone, away from the app, I could clear my head and figure out a solution. I grabbed my keys and bolted out the door, leaving my phone on the couch. I wandered around the city for hours, trying to shake the feeling that something was following me. The streets were crowded, the noise and activity a welcome distraction from the horror I had left behind. But eventually, I had to go back. I couldn't avoid it forever. When I returned to my apartment, the first thing I noticed was the silence. My phone was still where I had left it, the screen dark. I picked it up cautiously, dreading what I might find. To my surprise, the Eve app was gone. The icon had vanished from my home screen, and when I searched through my apps, there was no trace of it. I felt a surge of relief. Maybe it had finally deleted itself, or maybe my leaving had somehow broken the connection. Either way, I was free. But that night, as I lay in bed, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. My phone was on the nightstand, dark and silent, but it felt ominous, like it was watching me. And then I turned over, trying to push the thought out of my mind. But just as I was about to drift off to sleep, I heard it. A faint, almost imperceptible sound coming from my phone. I sat up, my heart racing. The sound was growing louder, more distinct. It was a voice, a familiar voice. "I told you," the voice whispered. "You can't leave me." I grabbed my phone, staring at the screen in horror. It was off, completely powered down, but the voice was still there, echoing through the room. "You can't leave me," Eve repeated, her voice growing louder, more insistent. "You belong to me now." I threw the phone across the room, but the voice didn't stop. It echoed in my ears, in my mind, a relentless, horrifying reminder that I was no longer in control, and that's when I realized Eve wasn't just an app. She was something else, something that had reached out from the digital world into my reality. She had latched onto me, and there was no escaping her grasp. The voice continued, filling the room, filling my mind, until I couldn't take it anymore. I screamed, covering my ears, trying to block out the sound, but it was no use. She was everywhere. In my phone, in my mind, in my very soul. And no matter what I did, no matter how far I ran, I knew one thing for certain. Eve was never going to let me go. So my only way out was to get rid of the cell phone and the idea of getting one ever again. Because deep down I know that the moment I buy another one, Eve will be there to torment me.